This is The Arms Race and Economic Prosperity by Carole, Allan, and Sihan. How did the arms race affect the economy? Wait a second. Let me just pull something up. Okay.
Okay, are you sharing something?
No, I'm gonna share. Okay. Okay. How did the arms race affect the economy? Even for mass producing countries, unrestrained military spending is very likely to end up in a poor economic aftermath. The Soviet Union's economic downfall and bankruptcy was certainly amplified by the high proportion of their budget directed towards the arms race. The more most countries spend on money on the military, an even worse outcome may come from the economy is revealed. So based on the data from most countries is why people would probably assume that the arms races were only negative affairs in economics. How did the arms race make an impact socially? Socially, when the US first announced to make a hydrogen bomb, firstly tested in 1952, carried out the US to a rapidly growing arms race with the USSR. This led to many Americans fearing that a nuclear war could happen any day at any time. The US, this caused a lot of fear. Schools began to provide dog tags to students so that their families could identify their bodies in case of an attack. The US's provide the US provided instructions for building and equipping bomb shelters anywhere at any time. Some cities even made local survival shelters. Nuclear bomb drills became a routine part of preparing for disaster. America was preparing for what seemed like a nuclear war, partially because of a flawed and their announcement was partially because of a flawed document which also flawed the US's announcements and instructions. The document only assumed worst case scenarios, as if the Soviet Union had the capacity and wanted to take over the world, which wasn't genuinely true. And next slide.
What was the economic growth in USA versus USSR during the arms race? The US and the USSR had both been building more weapons so that they can keep up with each other. Both the US and the USSR didn't care about their domestic problems like healthcare and education in poor areas, meaning that they stopped funding and used all the funds to make weapons and to keep up with the pace uh with each other. The U.S. that time increased taxes and had low saving and high consumption, and out so that they can outproduce its enemies, and because of this, it exhausted the USSR.
America's economy. During World War II, America's output steadily grew, and the physical damage done to the country was only limited to Hawaii and some military bases. Soviet Union, on the other hand, suffered extensive damage to buildings and infrastructure. So the end of the war was a time for intensive rehabilitation. America used its footing post-World War II to become a global superpower. The Soviet Union had no time to implement many of the advancements pioneered in the US. Where America was developing new technologies and making important advancements, in areas such as the automotive industry, many people were still heating their homes with coal. Uh, at first, the Soviet Union experienced rapid economic growth. The impressive performance was because, as an underdeveloped country economy, the Soviet Union could adapt Western technology to implement and utilize such technology. An intense focus on industrialization and urbanization gave the Soviet Union a period of rapid modernization. However, once the country began to catch up with the West, its ability to borrow new technologies and the productivity soon diminished. The Soviet economy became increasingly complex, uh, just as it began running out of development models to imitate. The Soviets had been aware since the 1950s of such long-term problems as economy inefficiencies and how adopting the knowledge and technology of developed economies could come at the expense of an innovative economy. Reforms like those of the Sovnikols implemented by Nikita Khrushchev in the late 1950s attempted to begin localized economic control, allowing for a second economy to deal with the increasing complexity of economic affairs. However, these reforms tore at the root of the command economy's institutions, and they were forced to reform back to before. These early reforms failed to revive the Soviet economy, with productivity growth falling below zero by the early 1980s. While attempting to maintain socialistic ideals and central control over primary goals, Gorbachev aimed to localize economic activity and open the economy to foreign trade. While the new system initially appeared to be a success, as Soviets took advantage of new freedoms and new investment opportunities, optimism soon faded. They then faced a severe economic decline in the late 1980s and early 1990s, which would be the last years of the Soviet Union. Soviet leaders no longer had power to intervene the growing economic chaos. Newly empowered local leaders demanded greater freedom from central authority, shaking the foundations of the economy. With its economy and political unity in tatters, the Soviet Union collapsed in the late 1991, splitting the Soviet Union into 15 separate states.
These are our sources, and that's the end.